In this podcast episode, Alan Dershowitz, a legal expert with over 60 years of experience, delves into a variety of pressing topics, including the criminal cases against Donald Trump, the state of American institutions, the OJ Simpson trial, the rise of ideological extremism on university campuses, and his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Dershowitz, a supporter of Joe Biden, begins by addressing the criminal cases against Trump, asserting that they are politically motivated and pose a danger to the integrity of the criminal justice system. He argues that these cases are being used as a tool to prevent Trump from running for president, emphasizing the importance of allowing the electorate to vote without interference from legal proceedings. He criticizes the New York case against Trump, describing it as absurd and based on a minor misdemeanor. He believes the charges are driven by partisan politics and are intended to keep Trump off the campaign trail. According to Dershowitz, the primary reason for the charges is Trump's name and his presidential candidacy, rather than any substantial criminal wrongdoing. The conversation then shifts to the broader issue of trust in institutions and the justice system. Dershowitz acknowledges that public faith in these institutions has eroded due to corruption and scandals. He highlights the role of social media in amplifying distrust and creating echo chambers where individuals only seek information that confirms their pre-existing views. He laments that people today prioritize winning over fairness and justice, often seeking revenge for perceived wrongs. Dershowitz reflects on his representation of OJ Simpson during his trial, noting the racial dynamics and prosecutorial mistakes that influenced the verdict. He discusses how media coverage shaped public perception and underscores the importance of transparency in legal proceedings, advocating for the presence of cameras in courtrooms to ensure public accountability. He explains his belief in defending even the most deplorable individuals and mentions the importance of providing legal representation to all, regardless of public opinion. He reflects on the challenges of defending controversial figures and the impact it can have on one's reputation. The discussion also touches on the polarization of society and the disappearance of the political center. Dershowitz notes the lack of civil discourse and the reluctance to engage with opposing viewpoints. He reminisces about his debates with conservative figures like William Buckley and expresses concern over the current trend of siloed thinking and intolerance towards differing opinions. Turning to the state of university campuses, Dershowitz attributes the rise of ideological extremism to the George Floyd killing, which he describes as a transformative event. He acknowledges the presence of radical elements on campuses and the shift towards identity-based departments and curricula. He emphasizes the importance of critical thinking and intellectual diversity in education, expressing concern over the lack of open dialogue and exchange of ideas. Dershowitz criticizes the current focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion (EI) in American institutions, particularly universities, arguing that it has created a divisive atmosphere. He contends that the DEI framework promotes a Marxist ideology of oppressor versus oppressed, leading to a lack of diversity of opinion and views on college campuses. He also discusses the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses, attributing it to the DEI framework that excludes Jews and Asians. Dershowitz draws parallels between the discrimination faced by Jews in the Soviet Union and the current situation in America, where he believes Jews are being targeted for their success and meritocracy. Emphasizing the importance of free speech and the First Amendment, Dershowitz acknowledges that the internet and social media have made free speech more dangerous and contentious. He believes individuals should be held accountable for their speech, especially if it incites violence or promotes hateful ideologies. He advocates for transparency, suggesting that protesters should be required to identify themselves so that their views can be known to the public. The conversation then shifts to the topic of universities, particularly Ivy League institutions like Harvard and Yale. Dershowitz expresses his disillusionment with these universities and their handling of issues like free speech and diversity. He mentions that he no longer contributes to these institutions and believes that new institutions, like the University of Austin, may offer a more balanced and inclusive educational environment. Dershowitz reflects on the lack of backbone among some faculty members at Harvard, referencing a letter from Albert Einstein about the responsibility of good people to speak out against injustice. He discusses the current climate at Harvard and the challenges of standing up for one's beliefs in the face of opposition. Regarding the Epstein case, Dershowitz briefly touches on his involvement as Epstein's former lawyer. He mentions that he was introduced to Monetary Metals, a company associated with Epstein, but does not delve into details about his relationship with Epstein. He reveals that he was Epstein's lawyer before the extent of his crimes was known and discusses his interactions with Epstein, asserting that he had no knowledge of Epstein's illegal activities at the time. He also shares his thoughts on Epstein's death, suggesting that there may have been government involvement in his suicide. Dershowitz also touches on the Me Too movement, highlighting how it started as a noble cause but has since become a vehicle for extortion. He discusses the complexities of sex-based crimes and the challenges of proving such cases in court. He emphasizes the importance of distinguishing between genuine victims and false accusers, advocating for criminal punishment for those who make false accusations. In the latter part of the podcast, Dershowitz delves into the topic of anti-Semitism and the quality of education in colleges and universities. He expresses concerns about the politicization of higher education and the lack of focus on important issues in society. He also raises questions about the caliber of leaders in government compared to other sectors, pointing out the need for more qualified individuals to enter politics.